So I've been thinking, just today I had a thought at least, I don't think a whole lot, that this RJ-35 has just been sitting here, and let's see if we get some action from it today. My first order of business is taking this belt guard off. The lighting back here is terrible, I know, but the belts were on backwards, and so I'm going to just take this engine drive belt off and get it all put back the way it should be. All right, that is better, and now it's time to put this belt guard back on. One thing I figured I'd point out, this thing's held on by 2 3/8 bolts. You know, that's something else right there. Just knowing how strong even the belt guards were. Just thick stuff. It ain't gonna break, that's for sure. My next order of business, check the oil. Now, I could probably change the oil, but I'd rather get it running and make sure it actually runs before I go through the work of doing a full service. So I'll change it, or check it, make sure it's topped off, and check for spark. There we go, we're full. All right, now our lighting problem is solved, and I'm in where there's a little bit of heat. So, I swapped those belts around. I got that guard back on. All right, now I actually decided instead of checking for spark, I will go ahead and drain the fuel system. The tank has about 1/4 of a tank in it, and the fuel has been shut off, so that bowl is fairly empty. And I'm going to just drain the system and give it some fresh gas and see what happens. Wouldn't that be so cool? All I have to do is put gas in it. It's like varnish, nasty stuff. You can see how it like pools up or clouds up. And I'm glad I'm getting this out of the tank for many reasons. I'm glad this is getting cleaned out. Now that all of the fuel is drained out of the tank, I set the front tires up on blocks a little bit to just pick up the front end. And then I flushed some fresh gas through until it ran fairly clear. Now I'm going to shut that little petcock off right there and then remove that glass bowl and dump it out. It's probably 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch deep with sediment and nasty crap. And then I'll get it all hooked back up and give that rope start right there a little yank. See what happens. Okay, now that the fuel is drained out, well, never mind. I can see it pouring like crazy out of the carburetor. I'm gonna just go ahead and shut that off. While that finishes draining, I will note that I took that dry belt back off. I don't know how the transmission is set right now, and I didn't really want to chase this thing around the garage. So, even though I got a fuel leak, I'm just gonna go ahead and see what happens. Okay, well, It's not running, but that just means I have to do some troubleshooting, and that's okay too. All right, so I have this spark plug here grounded against the flywheel shroud. And I can see that I have spark. So this is definitely a carburetor issue. And since it's flooding, I'm going to go ahead and just pull the carb off and do a little troubleshooting and cleaning, see if there's anything plugged. I've obviously got a leak at the carburetor, but I've got this little trick, and I don't know how many people know this trick, but I just cover the carburetor completely with my hand and pull it over or roll it over, and that kind of does a little passage cleaning. And so I pulled it over one time and my hand was wet, so I knew that the carb was getting fuel through it. Opened the choke and pulled it a couple times and it coughed, and pulled it one more time and that's what you saw. It was running. No smoke. Sounds really good. Sounds cute. I don't think I've ever seen an RJ-35 run myself personally. So, you know, it's just a little 3.5 horsepower, and I can't expect a whole lot of power out of it because of that. But that's promising. So I'm going to pull that carb, see if I can get the float maybe unstuck, or see why it was pouring fuel all over the place, and get this button back up and see how it runs. I took that bowl off, and it has clearly been tapped on, we'll say, a couple of times in its life. And I cleaned the inside of the bowl and cleaned the float, and the pin that the float rides on was only held in on one end. So my guess is that the float was a little bit bound up. And I'm going to turn the fuel on and see what happens. Just giving that bowl a little bit of time to fill up, and then make sure it actually shuts off. Yep. There it goes, pouring out. Let's see if this starts up anyways. Okay. Well, I say that runs pretty decent, if you ask me. It's going to definitely need some tuning, and that carb's still dripping a little bit, but it's slowing down, so maybe there's just some sediment sticking in there. I'll just keep it running, see what happens.